Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And well, over the last few weeks, it hasn't exactly been weekly. You see, last week I had to be out of the office, and actually, this upcoming Tuesday, I'm also going to be out of the office. So, we're going to be skipping a few weeks here and there going into the holiday season. However, I do have some pretty good plans for Bob's Live going into the new year. So, this time of year, we kind of, if you look at the weather outside today, kind of tend to run out of some gardening projects to do because the weather just doesn't cooperate and there's not that much work to be done outside. But that, of course, means that we can turn our attention inside, work on houseplant projects, hydroponics, all of that fun stuff. So, I've got a few ideas that I'm working on for this coming winter and getting us into springtime. So, I'm still I'm still working on those. Getting a little tongue-tied today. But it's going to be great to share those ideas in the upcoming weeks. Anyhow, this week, right before the weather turned all terrible today, I was able to head out to the garden and get part of my garden ready for winter. So a big part of doing that is just removing dead plant material, getting it so it can start composting during the winter. I usually, this time of year, stuff that I don't want to compost, like weeds or vines or different things like that, I'll start to build a burn pile. And it's always great once we get a nice snowfall to go out and have a bonfire in the snow. So that's one good way to get rid of that stuff in the garden. But this week, what I had to do was some repairs on my raised beds and also make my beds for winter. Get them ready for wintertime. So let's check that out. It's a pretty simple process, and if you have raised beds, you can do this. It only takes, a few hours on a couple weekends to do to get your beds ready for winter. So let's jump right into that. This evening I am out here in my garden doing some late fall garden tasks. So what I'm planning on doing tonight is clearing out some of these beds and getting mulch on them. But first, I have a little repair that I need to make right here on the corner of this raised bed. So back in the summertime, I had my tomatoes right here, and I attached a post to the edge of the bed. And well, as the tomato plants grew up, that kind of pulled on it and caused this corner to come loose. So before I do anything else, I need to dig up this corner and make a little repair. But as you can see, the sun just set, so I am quickly going to start to run out of daylight. So I'm going to do this and then work on the rest of the garden, but it might get dark on us this evening. So I got this corner repaired. I had to steal a little bit of water out of my water bottle and kind of wash out this corner a little bit. But if I have future problems with this, I'll just cut a piece of 2x4 or 4x4 and put in this corner and screw it in, and that'll just help reinforce it a little bit more. So while I was doing that, I went ahead and got this bed tilled up. It looks pretty good. I've got still some weeds like that, but my next step is I actually got some cow manure compost, and I'm going to put a layer of compost on, and then a layer of mulch over top of that, and this bed will be pretty much ready for winter. So I got 2 bags of compost, so I'm going to do half a bag per bed with the 4 beds that I have ready to basically get ready for winter. Now this bed back here, half of it is my compost pile, so I only need to prepare half of it. So I'm just going to divide up the 3 bags of mulch and 2 bags of compost that I have accordingly. So these 2 beds are basically ready to go. I just saw this weed right here. It somehow was hiding. And this guy, it's got seeds on it, so I'm putting it over in my burn pile. And our first thing to go in is organic cow manure compost. Now, this just isn't cow manure. It has a blend of composted cow manure, aged forest products, and some other ingredients in it. But this is made by Espoma, so it has all organic ingredients. And that is some nice, just wiped out on my pants leg. That's great. This has some nice composted cow manure. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna put that part here. The rest of this bag I'll put over here. And now we'll go in with my hoe and just mix it in. Oh yeah, it has a little odor of cow dookie to it. Thing is a layer of mulch, and I'm just going to use brown mulch. Over time it's going to break down and mix in with the soil. In fact, this spring I'm probably going to till it mostly in. Its purpose is to just help smother out weeds over the winter, but over time it's also going to add to the nutrients in the soil. Yeah, it looks like one bag will be pretty good for this bed. And again, I'm not doing a super thick coating like you might do in a flower bed. This is just to kind of give me a nice little coating here to help knock down weeds during the winter time. There we go. I'm gonna call this bed done. So that looks pretty nice. I do have a little plug of soil that I unearthed there. I think that was a pepper plant at one time. And I'll just chuck it down to the compost. All right, so that is 2 beds done. I've got these other 2 left to do, which in this bed, I've got the remains of some radishes here that I'm gonna pick through and see if I have any good radishes in it. They just weren't performing that well, mainly because I was having some beetle issues earlier in the summer, or well, fall, I guess. I planted these kind of late. But back in the back, I have some kale and then also some snow peas that are growing, which, depending on the temperatures this upcoming week, it might sort of be the end of those. So once they die back, I'll till them under and treat them the same way. And then my garden will pretty much be ready for winter. And by doing this, it'll give me a jump start when it comes to next spring, because it should help beat down any weeds, and also the manure and the compost and everything, it'll break down over the winter time and help enrich the soil. So by doing a little bit of work like this, I've only been out here for about an hour and I've done these 2 beds. So just doing this little bit of work saves you hours in the springtime. Alright, so that is prepping my garden beds for winter. And as I said at the end of the video, it only takes a few hours of work to do that. So I worked outside yesterday evening. I got a little bit later of a start than I would have liked after I unloaded all the supplies that I needed, got all the tools together and everything. Of course, I got started on fixing that bed and my drill battery died. Kind of edited that out of the video. But yeah, it didn't take that long to do. Gloria, great saying, you're a worker. Yeah, really though, compared to something like an old style Victory Garden, which my garden section that's still kind of that style that I grow row crops in, it's too wet to get into to do any work right now. Well, especially today. But yesterday, I mean, it was still fairly wet out. But my raised beds, I was able to get in and work in the soil. It was really soft, and I didn't have any trouble there with mud or anything. But doing some basic prep like that just helps get you ready for springtime. That's going to help control weeds during the wintertime and prevent any issues like that from cropping up. And it's just going to also start to get some nutrients and stuff breaking down in the soil. So I didn't really show it in the video. It was in a time lapse there at the end because it was already dark. Luckily, I have a light in my backyard that kind of helps me late at night garden, and I'll also sometimes wear a little headlamp if I'm out there late. But basically what I did is I went through and I did find a handful of radishes that were okay, that were pretty good. The rest of those radish greens, and also had some Brussels sprouts there that didn't look too hot. Basically all of that I just laid out in that bed, chopped it all up in place with a shovel,
and just kind of chopped it into the soil, mixed it all in with that upper layer, and then put on that layer of cow manure compost, and then a layer of mulch over top of that. So I've got a little bit of like a green mulch from those plants that I cut up down as the bottom layer, and then that upper layer of compost to all sort of start to break down. I think that bed is going to be really nice going into this coming spring. Now, the bed right behind it, I had a mix of stuff throughout the year. So, first off in the year, I had onions, and then later on, I had some squash, and then I also had okra in half of that bed. Now, the section that had the okra in it, that was a bear to till up. I had to get in there and really dig, dig down deep and turn it over with my shovel to get all that kind of turned over and ready. Uh, yeah, Carol Morris says, "Hello, John. How are you and your family doing these fine rainy days?" We are doing just great. Trying to get everything ready for winter. Um, I feature our garden a lot on Bob's Live because, well, that's the purpose of Bob's Market is gardening focus. But also my wife and I for like the last 8 years, we've slowly been remodeling our house. So that's also we're starting to wrap that up. So I've this last weekend I worked on trim in the kitchen all weekend, which hopefully once I get all the trim work done in the kitchen and get it really presentable, I want to start doing cooking videos here on Bob's Live. Um, Cooking is something that I love to do. It goes hand in hand with gardening. That's why we have a Karina's Kitchen section on our website with recipes. Um, and that's just one of my other things that I enjoy, which some of you watching, if you knew my mom, I spent a lot of time with her in the kitchen growing up, and I just have her joy of cooking. That's one of the things that I love to do. So you're definitely going to see more cooking videos in the future. Um, Speaking of the weather right now, let's take a look at the weather forecast because yeah, it is amazing the difference between yesterday evening and this evening. This time yesterday evening, I was outside working in the garden. It was a little bit nippy. When I started, it was maybe in the 40s, low 50s out. But by the time I finished yesterday evening, I went to pick up those empty mulch bags, and where they had a little bit of dew on them, it had frozen into frost, and they were crispy to pick up. Um, so, yeah, it was amazing how cold it got overnight. And looking at the forecast, um, that was some warm weather. Tonight we're looking at a low of 36. Tomorrow, a low of 32. Then Thursday, 24. And I know overnight between Wednesday into Thursday night, right now they're talking about the possibility of snow for us, which I rarely do I remember it snowing before Thanksgiving. I remember some cold Thanksgivings, I remember some warm Thanksgivings, but very seldom do I remember, like, over the last 40 years that I've been around, us having snow before Thanksgiving. You know, maybe a freak snow shower here or there. But yeah, I think this winter we're going to be looking at quite a bit of snow. And heading into the weekend, it is going to get downright chilly. So we're looking on Sunday night. If you're looking at that smaller number there, Yeah, that is the teens. So Sunday night, still in November, still before Thanksgiving, temperatures in the teens. That is just bonkers. So yeah, that is our upcoming weather forecast. And if that doesn't put you in the mood for winter, this next segment might. Today I stopped by our Gallipolis store and we're getting ready for Christmas. So Christmas is just around the corner. Pretty soon we're going to have poinsettias and cut Christmas trees and all that good stuff in our stores. But right now we're starting to put out Christmas decorations, and it's that weird time period where we have both fall and Christmas stuff out. So if you're still looking for a pumpkin, we've still got some of those available. They make a great centerpiece for Thanksgiving. Um, but also, if you're starting to look for some Christmas stuff, we're starting to put out Christmas stuff too. And also, coming up, since I'm not going to be doing a live show next week, um, I believe it's Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, um, Gallipolis and Lights, they're going to have their lighting. I guess that's what you call it, lighting ceremony. Um, but they're going to launch, Gallipolis and Lights for the Christmas season. And if I'm not mistaken, this year is the 10th anniversary of Gallipolis and Lights. And if you haven't been to it, you really need to go check it out. I know over the years, it has been amazing to watch it grow and get more and more complex every year. There's always something new there every year. And yeah, I definitely recommend going down and checking it out this Christmas. So, with that being said, let's take a little sneak peek at what's happening at our Gallipolis store. And well, that is a little peek at what we have coming as far as Christmas at our stores. And that is all that I have for this week's episode of Bob's Live. And as I said earlier, we won't have a live episode next week. I'm probably going to pre record something and post a video that way on our website and also on Facebook and YouTube and also over on Rumble. So I should probably jump back to the social things. So yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, and a whole bunch of other places. Usually, if you search for at Bob's Market, you can find us there. So, yeah, and Patty's saying Happy Thanksgiving. I just now realized that. Next week would normally be our Thanksgiving episode. So this is kind of it until after Thanksgiving. So, uh, yeah, until next time, happy Thanksgiving and keep growing.